Dramatic pause. Aha, look, we are live right now.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Open to Connect. I never know whether to call it a podcast or a vodcast or whatever it is, but it is a nice conversation with people who love to talk about connections and courage. And like today, we're going to talk about courage and creativity and pretty much going all in. And I have Elizma here with me, recording artist. I am extremely honored to have you join and can't wait to get into this conversation. Part of the things that I really love is people who pursue their passions. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Absolutely. Firstly, Jacqueline, thank you so much for having me on. And my name is Elizma. I am a recording artist from Slidell, Louisiana. Hope I'm getting a call. Sorry. Um,
The fun of live is always we don't know what happens. In a few minutes, my dogs will launch into song and it'll be that way.
we'll get some good awoos from them, just like with mine. But yeah, my name is Elizma, and I am a recording artist from Louisiana. And I just released a new single called Breaking Point, and I'm also working on a music video for that. So hopefully in the next month, we'll have that out. We just got the first cut the other day, so I'm going to go through that and kind of comb through it and be like, and send it back to my videographer, and he's just great. He does an incredible job. So he's always listening to everything that I have to say. Super great. But yeah, that should be out in the next month. So that's what's been going on with me. I have so much going, I've got some stuff that's been out and some stuff that's coming out. So
Would you call yourself indie pop? Is that like how like I feel old when I have to ask these questions because I just like how your music sounds. It's pretty amazing. So.
I will be honest, I always say indie pop just because that's like what I guess people know. But depending on the song, it can be a little more rock, it could be a little more like EDM type of music, or it can just be bubblegum pop, depending on like if I feel like writing a little corny song about love.
I love that though, because that it really ties into what we're talking about, and it's the going all in. And I think sometimes we like to put ourselves in boxes and say, "Well, I am just this type of artist," because that's how the world wants to define us. But often it's the taking those steps, one extra step outside of that box that really differentiates ourselves from each other. So I really like that it's special thing for me that is hard for you to define what you do.
Good, good. And I get it though. Like the algorithm needs to know. They always want to know who is an indie pop artist. They want to know, what people like and how to send your content to it. So it's
Yep.
always good.
So, what made you decide you wanted to go into music and just pursue it? This is the thing.
So I think that ever since I was a little girl, I have always loved to sing. I have always loved singing with all my heart. I used to sing all the time. My brothers would tell me to shut up. I'm the only girl out of three older brothers, so they got very tired of hearing me sing around the house. I was also heavily influenced by Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus. Um, that was just an incredible thing for me to watch. And I also really loved Carrie Underwood. I would listen to, I think it's Carnival Ride. Um, that was one of her, I think it's her third album. And I just fell in love with that. My mom would play that all the time on the radio, in her car. It was just, just something that I grew up with. Then I did choir, and I managed through my connections to get a job at a recording studio, met my manager, and since then it's been history. And my manager's also a producer, so it's very easy to get mixes done, get songs finished, even though, every now and then there's a little bit of a delay depending on how I'm feeling creative wise.
Mhm. It's got to be an interesting balance, the creativity and knowing. I struggle this sometimes as an author. It's like I know I can get this done, but I have to be in that zone to get it done fast or to get it done well or just to have all of the creativity going at once. So I imagine you can relate to that.
Absolutely. It really is a similar thing because I was always a perfectionist and I will always be a perfectionist, but I'm trying to teach myself a way to make that healthy. And I feel like for me, I just keep doing the reps every single time. I now don't get me wrong. There's a point where pushing yourself is a bad idea, and I try to walk that line. But I also tell myself, as long as you give it your all today, then that means that it was a success, regardless of whether or not you got done with anything. And then tomorrow, when I try again, then we can see, okay, was this actually better than yesterday? Did we sing better today for whatever reason? Were we able to be more creative for a different reason? Maybe I was well rested, today versus yesterday where I wasn't. So that creative energy is such a magical thing to harness, and when I can harness it, I try to take advantage of it as much as possible.
I understand that. The moment when I'm like waking up in the morning, I'm like, today, look at these ideas that are flowing. And it's like, that is the day to go all in. Uh, but you also alluded to something in that where it was kind of like, maybe you can only get one thing done today. And one thing is better than zero things if you're trying to make that progress, even when you kind of don't feel like it or don't feel that creativity.
Yeah, I felt yeah, it's just little steps. We're climbing a mountain and we get hungry and we get tired and we don't feel like going all the time. But for me, it is such, as Hannah Montana, aka Miley Cyrus, says, it's the climb. It's not about how fast I get there, it's about the destination. And that yeah, and it's tough because you lose, as myself, I lose sight of that every now and then.
Yeah. So, where do you say the inspiration for your music? Because you are very lyrical and very gifted in telling that story with your lyrics. Where do you feel like that inspiration comes from in your day to day life? I shouldn't even add a qualifier there. Where do you think it? Where do you believe it comes from?
So for me, my inspiration comes from uh, either my personal struggles or like a story that I heard somewhere, or like, um, you know, like a lot of it right now is definitely very tied to what's happening in the world today, and the feelings that I have about that, and coping with that. Some of it's, every now and then I get like a religious thing that I want to write about. For instance, my song Modern Life it talks about the world is burning and we're running it dry. Is this what we're searching for, or is there more to this modern life? And to me, that's just me. I'm in my 20s. I'm figuring life out for the first time, but there's so much turmoil. And that doesn't mean that there's never been turmoil in this world, but it was especially difficult for me getting that wake up call in 2025 when I realized that the world is we are destroying our planet. And I felt this strong pull to write this song. And at the very end, I was inspired by the Immaculate Mary Ave Maria. And it's like we were praying a rosary, me and a few of my church friends, and that melody that we sang during the Ave Maria part. I don't always pray it with the Ave Maria. Maybe I should. But when we got to that part, I loved it. So a few days later, when I was working on the song, that Ave Maria portion was in my mind, and I was like, you know what, this would fit the song perfectly. So I threw it in there, and I built, like maybe three or four other harmonies on top of that, and we mixed it together, and boom, we had a song. And so it's so nice when you get those moments that it just comes to you, especially like that. Like that to me was like a message from God saying, you're on the right path. It's bleak out there, but you're on the right path.
And I think the important thing is that where there's hope, I mean, there's like not to lose hope in things, right? Because even when things are a mess, there's always that hope from yeah. I think it is a divine hope indeed that just hang on for one more day. And I love that that's where your inspiration comes from. I also really like that song. That's one of my favorite that you do. So it's the one I've put on repeat before, and I love the new one too. I like a lot of your songs, but I really, Modern Life really did resonate with me in some major ways. So enjoy that one.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's so nice to hear when it does because I get tired of hearing the songs over and over again. Like, believe me, if you follow me and you're watching me promote a song, believe me, I've heard this song 6 million times. It's not new to me. And I'm not like, yeah, I absolutely adore this. But because I'm just so used to it. I love the songs, don't get me wrong, and I love the creative process. But like when you're listening to something on my page and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of this, it's only because I have to. It's only because I have to post it. So
I get
that's
that. As I'm editing my book, I've read it so many times that when I see something that maybe is a repeat, I don't know if it's because I actually repeated it or if I just read it not too long ago and it's just fresh in my mind. So sometimes I have to take just some time away and just remember what is where to make the continuity of the story. So I get exactly what you're saying. Where I'm kind of at this point of I just want to publish it and stop editing it, and yet I know that there are still some passes that should be done to just get that little edge to make it great. Um, so I
it's
am curious. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's so easy to get washed up in the process and
Mhm.
like lose the original intent. I find that sometimes if I'm singing a song and I'm trying to sing all the notes perfectly every single time, and I go back through and I'm refining it, half the time the first take that I did was so much better than anything that I did down the line that it's like, okay, we're going to go back to the first one, even though my pride is attached to the one that I just sang.
Yeah, I that that resonates so much because I had this moment where I was writing my book and I really thought, oh, I should sound like an author, like a better author. And I wrote it in this style. And then when I reread it, I was like, this isn't me at all. And I basically started over. I mean, not the structure and things like that, but I just was like, trust yourself, Jacqueline. Like, you know your story, you know where you're going, trust your gut. And it sounds a lot like the same principle there for you.
Absolutely, yeah. And that trusting your gut is tricky in itself, everything.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So I am curious about what were you most afraid of when you decided to go into music? I hear so many the arts are hard, but in general. So uh, yeah, I guess what were you most afraid of in that?
Absolutely. A lot of fear starting my career. And it's so funny because when I was younger, what I am 26 now, and when I was 20 during the pandemic, I told myself, I want to get big. I want to make it. I want to do this thing, but I was still in college, and so half my focus was on college. And I put out a few songs on SoundCloud that I'm really glad never made it to the public because I started out trying, not trying. I successfully rapped. I was a good rapper, a good female rapper. I was, some of the lyrics are not things that I agree with today, but back in that time, I was in a different world, and I was like, yeah, I want to be a rapper who can like rap and sing her hook. Yeah, woo! Like I don't need to hire a singer to get on it because I can sing it. But God is really good and very patient, and I thought I knew everything at that point, and finally when I started doing actually making the music and also getting involved in the industry, which I had worked at that indie record label and I was like making their social media posts. And I found it so difficult. And I just thought, man, I just wish I could focus on my music. And I started trying to focus on my music and posting that, but even that is still daunting. And so that's one of the fears is social media and like showing yourself to the world.
Mhm.
Um, it's hard to be visible before you're there. And I think right now I'm getting to that point where I genuinely do like being visible. I do feel a lot of pride in what I'm doing right now and a lot of genuine confidence that took me a while to get. Another thing that I felt was like playing back videos. Like if I saw a video of me singing or a video of me talking, a lot of times I would just be like, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm going to lose my mind if I have to listen, if I have to see myself do it. And I've, through social media, not only been able to work on that fear, but also figure out how to work a camera, and how to like, okay, I'm not able to see myself, but I know that the camera's tilted like this and that shot's not going to be right and the lighting's over here and I have to think about that. So now I have all these ongoing thoughts of that while I'm um, recording something into a video, and then let me think. I actually made a list of the things that I was scared of because, I feel like that was important to think about. Yeah, I was afraid of live shows because I don't play. I just sing, so I'd have to sing to a track. And I once got made fun of for singing to like a karaoke track. We were at I was working at this place in Madisonville. It's called Pardo's. It's a restaurant, and they would like let us sing. Well, one time we had a bunch of drunk people in the bar, and like usually the drunk people were like, "Oh yeah, you guys go ahead and sing your song, and we love you guys. It's so great to see people perform, and it's not just the same person over and over again." And that night, I didn't have anybody who could play the piano or play guitar, and I wanted to sing so bad. And so I go and I put on a karaoke track. I plug it up to this little like aux cord within the piano shell. It's like a piano shell, and there's some sort of electrical stuff in there, and I can't even tell. I can't even begin to explain it all to you. But I didn't even know what I was looking at back then. And so I plug in my little track, and this guy is like heckling me. He is like, "This is not karaoke. I want to hear real music." And I probably didn't sound very good either at that time. Like I didn't know how to work a mic. Um, I didn't really understand dynamics as well.
Mhm.
And but that like traumatized me. So like every time I did a live show after that, it was like I could hear that guy in the
Mhm.
back of my head, and it wasn't that I thought I wasn't a good singer, it was literally just the format. And so I still have some nerves around going live, but I did the national anthem the other day a cappella, and turns out I don't really need anybody to play with me. Okay. I'm kidding. I really do. I really do. So if you want to, then, by all means, reach out. But yeah. And I think with the live shows as well, there was a lot of fear around people seeing me and what they thought.
Mhm.
And I am finally to that point where, you know, ain't nobody else crazy enough to get out there and do it. So I better just go ahead and do it, sister, because everybody else is too scared to get out of the basement. And if you're knocking me for trying, then that's your own problem. I mean,
That's not coming from you. That's coming from them and a lot of their own insecurities. And we see that a lot is when people try to do something new or break that mold or be bold, that people who are quietly jealous and won't take those steps start being the ones that want to bring the innovators and the visionaries down. And it's frustrating.
absolutely. And that's been interesting to learn is my relationship with the people that I envy. My way of looking at the people who I'm like, oh, they've had it easy because they have so and so in their life. They have parents that support them. They've got parents that have money. And I'm like, wait, but I literally have so much. I have so much opportunity, and I may not have what they have, or I may see them and feel envy. But at the end of the day, don't look at other people's papers. You keep your eyes on your own paper and just keep building your own world, because right now everything's starting to sound the same. Everything sounds exactly the same. And as I am figuring things out, my style is forming. So it's getting better as I go. And I think that people just really analyzing myself and figuring out, why am I jealous of this person? What am I not getting? What am I not giving to myself? And a lot of that stemmed from me not having that genuine confidence that I feel like I'm really growing into now.
I can relate to that so much, and I think I have a friend of mine who, well, he's a fellow mentor with me, and he just started saying when we were mentoring groups of people, that success isn't a pie where there's if somebody else has some, then there's none left for you. And when I started really thinking about that, it helped me look at jealousy that I was having towards other people different. um, because I'm like, no, just because even if like you're saying the music sounds the same, right? But even if the songs sound very similar, you're still going to find your people who are going to tag along with you no matter what you do. So it's not it's okay to let them have their audience and you have yours. And because when you get your audience, they're the ones that will stick with you, no matter what bumps come along the way. And that's pretty special too. So
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah. So you kind of mentioned a little bit of uh, what helped you get over the fears, your self confidence, building it, self analysis. Was there anything else that you thought was a big catalyst to just building that self confidence and getting over fears?
There is nothing that can replace the power of putting in those reps. Like I said, it's one of those things that you just got to keep doing when you're not feeling it. And the moment that I was able to understand that, or I say grow into it because it's not like I just was like, oh, okay, I'm here, but the moment that I was able to get to that point where I'm like, no, I can't hire anybody within my budget right now who can do the social media for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm making it this big thing in my head and making it super difficult and making every post perfect. And so telling myself that that perfectionism was standing in the way was kind of another thing that I had to pivot through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I would also say your support, the people that surround you, my mom, my grandmother, my aunt, my dad, everybody is very supportive and they try to give me as much support as I need and also enough space because they understand that like I have to do stuff for social media or they understand that like I might say something that they don't agree with because or I might write a song that they're like, oh my gosh, this is totally against everything that I believe in, which usually isn't the case because I'm conscious of what I put in my songs and how that could affect people. But for the most part, they've been so good at just kind of giving me my space when I need it.
Yeah, I like that. Your story earlier about the one person who says that the negative thing that could stick with you. That happened when I first started Microsoft, where somebody was very much like, "Have you ever managed anything?" And then when I was having a bad day, that's what would cycle in my head was the "Have you ever managed anything?" Even though the answer was yes, a lot of things, just in a different style than what we're doing right now. And I love that you highlighted that because that is that voice that can get stuck in our head. And even as you're talking about who is supporting you and who lets you do your thing, I think that's such a great point is, have your supporters around you, like the core people that you can, when things aren't going well, you can just be like, I need you to tell me to show up tomorrow because right now I kind of don't want to. And it's such a core group of people to latch onto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those connections that I made have been absolutely important to this whole thing. My support also, I forgot to say that my producer and manager, business partner, he's just great. He does a great job at motivating me and also saying that, you're doing fine. You came in, you put in as much as you could, and now you need to go home and get some rest because if you don't, you're not going to come back tomorrow being creative. We can beat this horse dead, but we can't get it to sing any better today. So,
I love
that's
that.
so helpful.
I love that. And I'm also prone towards perfectionism. When I started taking improv classes, that's when it really I could break away from that, because you can't change anything in the past, and it's all random that gets thrown at you. So it really helped. I guess having 3 kids also helped. There's like, I can't keep up. The house can't be perfect anymore. It's like we are in chaos mode. Um, so you mentioned a little bit is on connections, since it's open to connect. I love to talk about, networking and how connections really help you move forward. Do you have any specifics about, a starting point, like, well, here's where I was, but these connections really got me to this next point?
Yes, and I think I was going to get to the story earlier, but somehow the conversation led me astray, or my train of thought led me astray. Put the blame where blame is due. Um, so I, it's funny because I was working in 2020 when the pandemic started. I was working at Walk-Ons, and I think that was like 21, or that might have been 21. Yeah. I was working at Walk-Ons. I hated the job. I hated it so much. And this is nothing against the restaurant Walk-Ons, but it just wasn't the right atmosphere. I know nothing about sports. And so for me to be a server at a restaurant where everybody's looking at a TV and getting all hyped up and happy, and I'm like, I have no clue what you guys are happy about. Do you want appetizers or what? It was not a good experience for me. So one of my friends, he's a guitarist. We're not super close anymore, but he was like, "Hey, I got this job in Madisonville, and at the end of the shift, we get to sing in front of the, whoever's left in the restaurant. And so when it's not busy, we're able to do a little like karaoke kind of vibe. And sometimes they have like a pianist that can interpret what the song should sound like just by listening to it. And so I was like, oh, 30 minutes away, but I get to sing versus like this job that I have no idea anything about sports. I don't really want to learn the menu anymore. I'm not happy. So I left. I went to Madisonville and started working there. And it's funny because the pianist, I knew him as a pianist, of course, and I knew that he could kind of sing, and I knew that, he could play very well. I had no idea that he had a recording studio that he had just leased not too long ago. I had no clue, girl. I was like very shocked. And it's funny how it came about because this one day I'd made the commute to my job and I was sick. And so what do? I'm taking shots of Dayquil, thinking that that is going to help me through this shift. And I think I got to like maybe 4 shots of Dayquil. And I realized, oh, I am not feeling right anymore. I think I was like feeling hot, like I was going to pass out. And so, I stayed for a little bit, just trying to like make it through, but they were like, you can go home. It's okay. We don't need you that bad today. You can go home. So I'm leaving. Meanwhile, the pianist is bringing all of his stuff into the restaurant, and I'm going back to my car, and I go and I talk to him. I'm like, yeah, I'm just not feeling good today. So I'm actually just going to sit in my car for a little while and wait for somebody to come pick me up, because even though I've made that commute, I was not going to drive home with the way I was feeling. I had never done that to myself before. I had never taken so much Dayquil where I was like, I'm going to die. And we get to talking and he's like, hey, have you ever done metadata before? Because I was talking about being in school and everything, and what my major was. And he was like, yeah, do you know how to do metadata? And I'm like, no, I have no idea. Like at that point, I had no idea what metadata even was, and I didn't even realize that there were different types of metadata that, like metadata is such a broad term. And so and so he's like, well, you just kind of have to know your way around the Excel spreadsheet. And I was like, okay, bingo. Like I can do that, but I have to learn. So I'm not going to tell you that I can do it, but I can learn. So a few weeks later, I go by. Mind you, this was kind of dangerous. Like I should have came with a friend. I should have brought a friend with me to go to this recording studio because it just seems a little too good to be true. So I show up there, and and I forgot to mention his name. His name is John Otan, and the studio is Rapidash Records in Rapidash Studios in Mandeville. And so I get there, and mind you, this place is on like an industrial road in Mandeville. So like I'm driving down there, and there's like just a bunch of 18 wheelers hanging out, and people dropping off big shipments to these like, I don't even know, they have like a glass place next door that a glass place, place that sells glass. And so that's kind of the area. And I show up, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to learn. And John starts kind of like training me through the metadata. I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. It basically, the whole task was I'm taking 40 years worth of music catalog, learning as much as I can to fill in all of these boxes on this spreadsheet. And then we send it to a distributor to be put out on Spotify and YouTube and all the other streaming platforms. So it was a really great entry into the music industry. From there, I worked for him for about like maybe 2 years, and then I had already kind of met. Okay, so that was John, and one day I'm at the recording studio, and I'm going into work, and then my boss is like, "Hey, I won't be around, but there's this guy there. He's working on something in the control room." And oh, and I wanted to mention that that was my first time ever in a recording studio, ever. Like, so it's my first time in a recording studio. John is this strange man, and I'm not like smart enough to think maybe I should bring a friend, but thank you God for protecting me, because that could have been bad for me. Not saying that John's a bad person, but it's like just the core concept of being out there in BFU with nobody. So but yeah, so I worked for John for 2 years on the metadata, and eventually at some point I moved into social media. But I met my now manager and business partner, Jeff Glixman, who actually he produced the record for Carry On Wayward Son and Dust in the Wind for the band Kansas. And I had no idea who he was. I didn't really know all that at first. All I know is that I'm trying to go to work one day, and my boss is like, "Hey, I've got to go for a gig, but the studio's going to be locked. But when you get there, you go in through some other entrance or something like that. Just some secret passageway." And I was like, "Well, like, can I just have the guy's number? Because like, what if what if everything's all locked up and I can't get in, and I just drove, another 30 minutes to get here?" Like, so he was like, "No, he's a famous guy." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, here in Mandeville of all places." So I go in, and we get to talking, and we had known each other for a little while after that. That was our first interaction. And then a while later, Jeff Glixman asked me, "Do you want to work with me? I need help with my emails. I'm like, I need an assistant." And I'm like, "All right, extra money. I'm getting out of college. Cool." And he didn't know anything about me wanting to be in music. He had no clue. And after about like 3 weeks of working together, I was like, "Oh, I think I can show him one of my songs now." Because it doesn't, I'm not showing him right off the bat. Like, he won't be like, "Man, she only, she doesn't care about this job. She's just trying to be a singer," or whatever, whatever I thought he was going to say. And so I show it to him, and it's my song "Morning Coffee Baby," which is like the first thing that I ever released. And I will say it's not the worst, but it's not like where I want to go with my music. So that was like the very first thing that I had released, and I've changed so much since then. But that's what I showed him, and he was like, "Okay, we need to talk. We need to talk." Because like usually when I get things, I'm like, I don't want to listen for more than 30 seconds, And he's like, "I played this over and over again, and you got potential, kid. So, I, of course, was still working for him in an administrative assistant way. But, eventually he was like, okay, let's like figure out a way to make this your career. And so now we have a company together. And, he's been instrumental at helping me build my confidence and really, really getting to that point where I feel like I can handle this, and I'm not doing it by myself. And I think right now, the way that I want to move is to continue, building my connections, building with people who are in this industry and building around town, even people who are not, breaking point can be used for so many different things, literally anything you can think of. I'm at the breaking point. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that, So just making those connections and trying to find people who are not trying to squash the person who's trying to come up.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Um, so, what advice would you give to people who are afraid to do the big, scary thing? I know that can fit in a lot of blanks for a lot of people, but I love to hear how you took courage by the horns. But I'd love to see what advice you would give someone else.
You will regret not doing the thing that you were put on this earth for. Mm-hmm. And I know that you're going to have doubts. However, it's better to live knowing that you tried and failed, because that's data, than to have never tried at all and to go the rest of your life wondering if you would have been successful. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that creates a lot of resentment a lot of times, or a lot of like, oh man, I'm so mad at myself for doing this. But I also feel like, it's just good to get out there and to do the thing. And your fear and faith come from the same place. Mm-hmm. So when you're up there and you're nervous, just think, I'm actually very excited right now. I am so excited. And you know what? Whatever happens with this situation, I've put in the work. I've put in all the work that I could possibly think of. And it's up to God and the universe to figure out what to do with all of that. And if it's not the path that I want, then I will accept that. But at the same time, I'm going to try like hell.
I feel like we read the same book, because I tell people a lot that we have this capability to what if ourselves into inaction. And it's often the, well, what if this happens and this happens? And it's always these negative things. And I'm like, reframe that into what if it's exactly what you're meant to do. And I've done a lot of, well, let's just see what happens. And if it turns out terrible, then it's learning. And I have a big tale of all the things that didn't get right. But then as I move more and more towards my purpose, all of those things were necessary to get me to the point where I am now, where I'm like, I think this is everything that this has been pointing up to in this moment. All of the learnings, also known as failures, have gotten me here. And I would have never, ever gone on the same journey had I just leaned into fear. And I do have those regrets that when I went into college, I really loved theater and whatnot, but I was like, oh no, so other people are better than me. I'm not that good. It just leaned into that and made safe choices. And there is that piece of me like, well, what would have happened if I would have done that? And it's not that you can't come back in life and redo some of these things a bit. I'm doing the improv stuff now, and that fills a lot of that theater piece. But there's still that what if, and that's one of those big drivers of my theory now is don't live wondering.
Absolutely. And I feel like having that faith to fall back on, having, trusting that God's got a plan that I can't possibly fathom. I can't possibly think of what God wants me to do. I know what I want to do, but if he allows that to happen, that's a different story. And I'm so grateful to be where I'm at because, I went there's no infrastructure here in Louisiana really. I mean, there's the New Orleans tourism world, and you can go sing on Bourbon Street, but a lot of people get stuck there. And so um, I didn't want to just be live playing gigs in bars and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different when you're creating your music. It's different when you're creating your own vibe and your own sound. And so yeah, a lot of that was just kind of having to get over that fear of what if that, what if this, what if that, um, and just do the thing. Just do the thing and trust that if you fall, God's like a nice little trampoline underneath you. Bounce right back up.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So I am, we're getting close to time here. So I'm curious, what are you working on now? You did mention that earlier with the video for Breaking Point and then another song that you're working on, but also how can people find you? Um, yeah, because I know I've seen you on Instagram a lot and then on Spotify, of course, but are there other places that people should reach out to you, particularly if they want you to come sing in their venue or something like that, which would be amazing and everyone should take take advantage of that.
Absolutely. So my Instagram, my TikTok, my Facebook, and my YouTube are all Elizma Music. No spaces, no dots, anything. Um, and if you're looking to get in touch with management, you can reach out at info@elizmamusic.com, and that is ELIZMAMUSIC.com.
All right. And that's also the handle right here on your name for when people are
Yes.
watching this recording back. So I think we're pretty ready to wrap up here. But I just want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your story and about that just the pieces of courage. Of course, I love your perspective because it really matched mine. But
Great.
I love when things match, but yeah, I guess could leave the audience a lot with the don't lean into the negative what ifs, but there's a bunch of positive what ifs. So yeah, thank you
Exactly.
for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. And I hope you and everybody else who is watching, if you guys are out there, I hope you guys have a wonderful day as well and a happy Easter.
Yes. All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.